In today's video, I'll be going over inscriptions. In the first half of the video, I'll be explaining where you can find your inscription bonuses, how the rarity of a piece of gear affects how many inscriptions it can have, and just some general information about inscriptions when it comes to maximizing their benefit. So, to kick off, what exactly is an inscription? An inscription is a random bonus that will be rolled onto a piece of gear. This bonus can be anything between increasing the life of your thruster to decreasing the amount of damage you take from certain elemental attacks. There is a very large pool of inscription effects that can roll onto any piece of gear, and that very list is exactly what we're going to be going over later on in the video. Each gear rarity tier rolls with a different number of inscriptions. Common gear will roll with 0 inscriptions, uncommon will roll with 1, rare will roll with 2, epic will roll with 3, and masterwork and legendary 4. Masterwork and legendary pieces of gear will have a chance to roll with an extra very powerful ability. It seems that masterworks have a chance to roll with this ability, and legendaries always roll with an extra ability. Now, I'm not going to go into extra detail on these extra hidden abilities, however, I will put one up on screen right now, just so you can get a taste for what kind of power these abilities are going to be bringing to the end game. As you can see, this ability relates to the Pulse Blast attack on the Ranger. What it means is hitting an enemy with your Pulse Blast increases your melee damage by 110% for 20 seconds. So for those of you out there that like to punch and kick things, this ability is going to suit you very well. Before I digress too far, let's get back onto topic. Now we know what an inscription is, where they are, how many can roll on different pieces of gear, etc. Let's begin talking about which effects can roll on these inscriptions and what effect that's going to have on your gameplay and your javelin. To begin with, let's begin talking about specific weapon type bonuses. For all weapon types, that includes grenade launchers, sniper rifles, autocannons, heavy pistols, machine pistols, light machine guns, auto rifles, marksman rifles, and shotguns. You can get an inscription that will boost damage, and you can also get an inscription that will boost the amount of reserves you can hold for that specific weapon type. So, for example, if you're a fan of using the machine pistol, odds are you're going to be running out of ammo rather frequently. So, get a few pieces of gear with machine pistol ammo inscriptions on them, and you'll be sorted. Similarly, if you wish to buff the damage of, say, for example, your sniper rifle, you can get a few pieces of gear with sniper rifle damage inscriptions on them, and make your sniper hit like an absolute freight train. Next up, we have the inscription effects that focus on weapons as a whole, rather than a specific kind of weapon. For weapons as a whole, we can see effects boosting damage, reducing reload time, boosting magazine size, reducing hipfire recoil, and boosting blast damage. So, unlike the previous inscription effects that focus on one specific weapon type, these effects will take place on any weapon that you're holding. Say for example you had a sniper rifle and a heavy pistol equipped. If you had a weapon magazine size inscription on one piece of your gear, this mag size inscription would affect both of those weapons. Next up, we have 3 more effects that will affect your damage output. First up, we have a boost to critical damage, which will evidently boost the damage that you inflict when you hit a critical shot. Next, we have a boost to melee damage, which will, of course, boost the amount of damage you inflict with your melee. And finally, we have a boost to impact damage, which will affect the damage you inflict when hitting an enemy with a projectile. An example of this would be a missile or a rocket that deals damage when it impacts the enemy, and then damages the enemy again when it explodes a few moments later. Now for these next effects, I'm not 100% sure on what they actually affect. However, I can make a pretty good guess. These next effects give boosts to the amount of charges and the regeneration speed of, air quotes, gear. Now, I'm assuming that this affects the amount of charges you can hold and the regeneration speed of your first and second abilities, which are more commonly referred to as Q and E abilities. On my Storm that I was playing, these Q and E abilities would be my Lightning Strike and my Frost Shard abilities. On top of this, our next effect directly affects the damage that we deal with our Q and E abilities. And on top of that, we also have an effect that will speed up the rate in which we get our support ability back. The next effect focuses on elemental type bonuses. For acid, ice, fire, and electricity, we will see effects that boost the status that we can apply with these elements, our resistance to them, and the amount of damage that we inflict with them. Say for example you're stuck on a difficult mission with lots of enemies that have acid based attacks, you can take a step back, apply some inscriptions that focus on acid resistance, and suddenly those acidic attacks won't be doing anywhere near as much damage to you. Next up we have shield refresh rate, maximum shield amount, and maximum armor amount. I feel like I don't need to explain these ones, they're just going to make you more tanky and harder to kill. Another few effects that are going to affect our gameplay relatively heavily is the amount of health and ammo drops we get from roaming enemies, as well as the amount of health and ammo we get from each pickup. Pairing nicely with the previous effects, we have a boost to pickup radius and a bonus to harvesting materials. So if you'd like to build a full-on loot farming, material farming loadout, you'll need to buff your pickup radius a load and add on some harvest bonuses, and you'll be picking up tons of loot without even thinking about it. These next bonuses are to do with traveling. We all know that the flight in Anthem is exceedingly fun. It might be a little bit tricky to get used to, but it's great. It gives you a load of freedom and you can go wherever you want. However, after the game has been out 1, 2, 3 months, you're going to get bored of doing the same flights over and over again. So these bonuses are focused on speeding that up and keeping it more continuous so you don't have to keep calling yourself off. These bonuses directly increase the speed of your flight and increase its duration. From my point of view, I think these inscriptions are particularly helpful, and I think we'll soon see a load of people take a shine to them. And finally, to wrap the video up, we have what I would call the most powerful inscriptions that we currently know of. And these effects are combo damage, ultimate damage, and ultimate recharge rate. Because the combo mechanic and ultimate abilities are already our highest source of damage in the game, I think any extra bonuses that we can stack on top of what they already deal is just going to make things ridiculous. However, I feel like these are going to be needed in the end game. We're talking sort of Grandmaster 1, 2, and 3 here. Things get hard. Enemies are tanky, you need to be able to deal a load of damage, and this is where that damage is going to be found. Within these kinds of inscriptions, top tier players are going to be able to make crazy builds that can output insane amounts of DPS. And with that brings the end of the video. If you enjoyed today's video or you learned anything from it, a like rating would be super appreciated, and if you're not already subscribed, if you could consider doing so, that would be wonderful. Thank you very much for watching, have a great day, and I'll see you soon.